Welcome, everyone. We know we're going to have more people joining, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So we have as much time and space as we can get together to explore some insights about well-being for all. Thank you for coming. This is our last of this series, and it is the culmination of a creative inquiry into well-being and what does it take to support everyone in having the opportunity to be well. So a
Right.
little bit about the series. Yep.
You want to show the full screen,
Am I
this
sharing the wrong slide?
the presenter view.
Let me share the proper slide. How's that?
Good.
All right. So a little bit about the series, maybe more visible this time, is it was an inquiry into well-being, thrivability, flourishing. We had a long list of really wonderful words. Sometimes I would just read that list when I wanted to feel revitalized. We chose to focus on well-being and wanted to cultivate a learning community and expand learning relationships together around this inquiry. And partly this was a response to, in the work that we do around systems change and supporting groups to collaborate around systemic change, it can be so problem focused, so focused on deficiencies and where things aren't working. And we wanted to get into, yeah, but what do we want to create? And what are the conditions that support the kind of world that we want? So we have been more and more centering well-being in our own work with collaboratives and asking questions like, how do we come together to create the conditions where we can all thrive? So we had six sessions in the series. I believe we had six, checking with Stella, yes. And but we had not just 8, which we advertised, but you're going to get in this session a bonus 2 insights for a total of 10 insights about well-being for all, simply because that's what the data was telling us. So we're going to look at what it is, what it takes, and then explore some questions together in this session. So this is the flow of today's session. As always, we're going to do a little bit of transitioning into the space, grounding, some connecting together. Lizette's going to share some of those top 8 themes, plus the 2 bonus themes. We'll have some small group discussion, explore some implications in plenary for ourselves and our work, and then do a collective well-being practice to close. So I think many of you know about Co-Creative. I think we've supported now nearly 60 multi-stakeholder collaborations, many different areas, but all around how do we create a world that works better for all and is sustainable and resilient. And we do this both by supporting collaborative innovation networks or multi-stakeholder networks and providing training, coaching, and support for people doing that kind of work. And we're co-hosting this series with Academy for Systems Change.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. Yeah, it's been an incredible journey and beautiful experience to be co-hosts here. So Marta Ceroni here from the Academy for Systems Change. And the way that we talk about well-being is about transforming systems towards a future rooted in love that holds dignity, equity, belonging, and thriving for all life. So like a lot of resonance to some of the themes discussed in the series. And we focus in particular on deepening leadership and systems change capacities in different spaces. And I just want to take a moment today to kind of orient ourselves to the space. So first of all, as we have done through the series, we invite each and all of you to the space, meaning also your spaces in the background. You can see half of my house, I guess. So whatever happens in your background is welcome. And this is a session, as you know, that is being recorded. It's unlike other sessions, this one is 75 minutes session, so an hour and 15 minutes, a bit shorter. So definitely welcome to this space with everything that is happening in your life, professional, personal, at this moment that you're here. And as a way to arrive to this space, why don't we just find our bearings? Some of us might be sitting, some of us might be standing. Just take a moment to notice how you arrive into this space. Anything that is moving in your body, in your sphere of awareness. And I always invite the feet as anchors. Can we invite the feet? Can we invite the sitting bones? And can we invite the spine to kind of be present to this space? And let's take 3 deep breaths as a way to marking a threshold here. And breathing in, and breathing out. And another cycle. Let's invite another breath together. This something very special that we have learned through this series about the power of breathing together in a space. So welcome here. We're very happy to be in community around the last session for the series.
Okay, we're going to do a bit of quick connecting. And the way we'll do that is Stella is going to drop a link into the Zoom chat to a polling tool. We have a few questions for you there. Your name and one practice you have to cultivate well-being in your life, where you're joining from today, and one value that consistently informs your life and work. So that'll help us connect to this community individually and collectively. If you have a problem getting into the link, please just unmute and let us know, or put a message in the chat and we'll help you. All right, finish up if you could. That's my dog saying hello. He's very upset that I'm on a call with you all. Okay, so I'm going to start to share. If you're still submitting, that's okay. We'll gather the responses here. Let's see what's come up. So Amanda trying to unlearn urgency and overfilling overfilling. I assume you're trying to unlearn overfilling your calendar. Tino Ramirez Moon, my practice of the morning ritual of meditation, movement, and morning pages. Tracy Kunkler, I have a practice of preparing nourishing food every day. Jim Fong, oh, so many beautiful names in here, people I know. Yoga and Tai Chi, activity and exercise, especially outdoors, dancing in the dark, great movies, going for walks, doing puzzles, stepping outside during the day, morning meditation, walking outdoors. Some themes already emerging, although some people are in front of a screen and other people are away from screens. Bird watching. Mine was doing little projects, combining steam rooms and meditation. Connor. Simca, breath work, walking in nature with Melissa, morning meditation, reading, community dance. Got a couple of dancers at least, dancing at night in communities, and walking in nature and sitting with Sahar. Beautiful. So I won't read through these. Let's just get a sense of where we are in the world. Canada represents, all right. And our values that we shared. It looks like we maybe had a couple of people share connection. We have creative people who got in the one word restriction with combining words together. Beautiful. Somebody has a value of well-being, which seems really appropriate given our topic for today. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Lou, who's going to share some of the themes.
Thank you, Ross. And hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you here. Well, so far we've gone through some introductions. We've seen who we are. And I now want to spend some time exploring the top 10 themes from the series. I will be sharing with you some of insights that we have. And let me share my screen right now to also walk you through which sessions we actually have held so far. So we started with cultivating awareness for collective well-being. We also explore calling forth the light, elevating our well-being in these emergent times. We explore the hidden dimensions of well-being. We explore the discipline of spaciousness, and we did some wonderful practices there. We then move into well-being in complexity, and we had a great session also on reframing equity as liberatory change. And what I want to do is I'm going to be sharing some of our themes that we've selected as top 10. And I'm going to invite you, if you have pen and paper, to get that in front of you. And we're going to invite you to write down whatever shows up for you as we review our themes. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, because before I go into this cognitive sharing of concepts and themes, I'm going to invite you to take a moment for yourself and just connect with what feels being well for you. What is being well for you? And how do you feel when you are well? And then I'll start sharing some of our themes. All right. So here I go. Top 10. This is number 1. Individual and collective well-being are interdependent. And so throughout the series, we saw how individual and collective well-being are interconnected, and how well-being absolutely depends on everyone's well-being. That includes our planet, our families, our communities, our societies. So, for example, my health depends on the quality of the natural resources that give me life, such as oxygen, water, food. The well-being of my family is influenced by my ways of being and interactions with them as well. We also look into well-being is necessarily multidimensional and holistic. And in this space, what we saw through the series is that well-being must be really seen through a systems lens rather than just an individual journey or in fragmented parts. So well-being shows up in several dimensions, from the physical to the mental to the emotional to the way we build meaning and have a sense of purpose, the way that we relate to nature, and the way our systems impact how we live our lives. So it's all interconnected. And when that is happening at the same time, we are all the product of many influences of those multiple levels. And we're influenced, and we are influenced by, and we influence each other. And so when we are able to notice how I'm influencing my family, my community, my society, I'm cultivating self-awareness of my relationships. And with that, I can cultivate self-awareness of my well-being. The next one is around we can't create well-being, but we can create the conditions for it. So our focus here was on how to create environments and conditions that support well-being. We're not going to, I don't even know if we're like looking for a destination with well-being, but it's more an experience that we're having moment by moment that can be enhanced by the conditions, the context, the systems, the relationships that are holding that experience and impacting that experience for us. So a big question that we left with from the Calling for the Light webinar was, how do we create the condition for us all to be well, to have better futures together? This is a question that we hold a lot in our collaborations and in the work for creating different systems. In our next set of insights, we also have well-being is subjective, so it is different for each of us. I have found this one very important because sometimes we tend to make things homogeneous and everything has to be the same. And the individuality and subjectivity of well-being is very important to understand that those conditions and environments that we are creating for all need to include those distinctions and individualities. We all have different experiences of the same conditions, and those actually shift over time in the multiple dimensions and scales I have mentioned already. So looking at well-being as the quality of life experience that we have moment by moment help us connect to that subjectivity. Every one of us has a particular space where our well-being might be different from others. So I'm going to go back to my nature comparisons, like things like oxygen, water, the food, the soil that we need. You know, we all need those things, but we might need them in a different extent compared to others. So our needs are going to be different. Our needs and our wants are going to be different. And in that space, our well-being is going to be also measured differently, or at least experienced differently. The next one is around the fact that well-being isn't just about being well all the time. And there was an emphasis on acknowledging and working with both well-being and ill-being states. And the question that we experienced at the Hidden Dimensions of Wellbeing webinar was, what if instead of trying to resolve ill-being, we were just in that moment saying, this is what is happening? So here we really explore an invitation to be with what arises in our life, without judgment or criticism or wanting to fix it, but more with an openness to experience what life is bringing at a given time. And perhaps we can choose to learn from it. There's also an invitation around looking at different emotional states and actually inviting and say, you know, when we are holding difficult emotions, those don't need to be called or seen as negative or something to be fixed, but perhaps it's a normal human state that we just get to experience. So it's almost like an invitation to help us let go of the tyranny of the belief that we need to be happy all the time, because that's not life. The next insights included our nervous systems directly impact our well-being. And we spoke about this in the Wellbeing in Complexity session, where we emphasize that our biology, and particularly our nervous system, fully impacts our capacity to be well, particularly in situations that are complex and that may be impacting our nervous system, our mind, our body, our emotions. And so I want to bring up a concept that is called neuroception. And it just describes how neural circuits in our bodies distinguish whether situations are safe, dangerous, or life-threatening. And this process is happening all the time. And when we're triggered by an emotion that I got given an email that I read that I didn't like and it made me feel really bad, then my reaction is a process that happens below my conscious awareness. I'm not there. So it's a reaction. And sometimes after it, I'm like, why did I do that? And that's the awareness we want to bring into our well-being. Because if we understand how we react, then we're able to understand how to, center ourselves, how to come back to our be grounded and not have to react, but better to engage more intentionally with situations. And something that is really helpful for us to get into our center and groundedness is spaciousness and pauses. And those are needed for well-being. That's our next insight. So in multiple webinars, we look into the importance of creating a space or pause because it helps us with reflection and regulation. And then there is this beautiful quote that says, between a stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. And doing all these different well-being practices allows us, and including spaciousness and pause, allows us to get into that space where we're able to choose our response, to choose what happens, to choose our learning. And so the next one that I want to highlight is the fact that we have proven practices and tools to cultivate our own well-being. We had some practices like coherent breathing. We had practices like breathing work. We had practices like some movement with Norma. So all of that help us raise our awareness of the body, our sensing of the body. It helped us expand our ability to be with difficult emotions, and that helped us be well. Walks in nature, and so on. And so connection to nature is a powerful force for well-being, because when we are in nature, our nature is to be nature. So when we are in nature, it helps our nervous system. For some of us, not everyone, but for some of us, it helps our nervous system relax. And having access to walks in nature, for example, help us access more oxygen in our brain. And so it immediately has a physical effect on our body. The next one here is cultivating our self-awareness as a key to our well-being. And here, this self-awareness development was used in several webinars. And the quote here is that this extended journey of self-awareness has given me an incredible amount of insight and has really changed me. Changed how I show up, how I interact, how I react. This was from Cultivating Self-Awareness for Collective Well-Being. And the last thing I'll say about this is that when we are able to deepen our self-awareness, we're able to understand where we are as individuals in our different dimensions, mental, emotional, physical. We're able to see how we are impacted, and we're able to see how we impact others. That plays a big, big role in our ability to create environments and conditions for our life and the lives of others to be well. So I'm gonna stop here for a moment. Have a moment for all of us to take in everything I said. And from here, we're gonna move into breakout groups. And with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Marta to help us get there.
Great. Yeah, I was just thanking you for this beautiful overview. So, as we prepare for breakout groups, so first of all, we had this question: do we engage with the insights? I mean, I'm sure a lot is coming up for you as we reviewed some of these insights that emerged through the series. And we felt that maybe one engaging way to connect with all of this that has been shared is to engage from a point of view of a question, like each of these themes kind of stimulated questions. And so we have distilled 5 questions that we would like to pose to you, and others might be with you as a result of just listening to all of this. And so we would like for all of us actually to take one minute to sit with what's been shared and review the questions before we break into groups. And so each of us, why don't we find that question that speaks to us in this moment? And then we're going to go into breakout groups. And then I'll give you a little bit of instruction about that, just a half-minute instruction about that. But right now, we can just sit with the 5 reflection questions that we recommend you to look at in addition to anything else that is coming up for you. Can we have those slides up? Or what would be the best way for folks to actually see the questions and see what intrigues you the most? Oh, sorry. They are actually in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just adding 2 more.
Okay.
Oh, yep, solid.
Yeah, so you'll see 5 questions and see what speaks to you that you want to bring into breakout groups. And then I'll tell you the next little bit. Have folks had a chance to read through the questions so far? We're good. I see some thumbs up. Okay. And then those will stay in the chat, so you can also access them once you are in the breakout rooms. So once you are there, in just a few seconds almost, why don't we introduce ourselves and also maybe share a little bit more about the well-being practice that was shared at the beginning of the session when we actually got to see it together. And share your question. Why did you choose that particular question? And what is that question bringing up for you right now that you might want to share? And then when we come back from the small groups, then we can hear popcorn style what emerged from the conversations. And I'm just going to ask my team if 18 minutes is still feeling all right. Okay, so we're going to breakout groups for 18 minutes, okay? And the instructions are also in the chat.
All right.
Thank
you. Opening rooms now. See you in about 18 minutes.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had a beautiful conversation. Our group was really precious. Well, now we're going to be in plenary, and we would love to hear from you for what emerged for you and in your group. And we're curious, right, to hear from you. We welcome anyone who wants to share. You just have to unmute your microphone and share. What I can start with is to say how in my group our conversations connected beautifully, naming the tensions, between the system and ourselves, what happens in a context of a school with the kids and taking care of the kids, but who takes care of those who take care of the kids, and how systems reflect our inner world as well. And so it was beautiful to hear and presence that. So I'm just gonna check with Ross and Marta if you wanna add something to that, and then I'll open up for everyone to share. No, Marta?
I would love to hear.
All right.
Yeah, let's open it up.
All right. So if anyone wants to share, please unmute your microphone, and let's hear you.
Jim did bring up to call you out, Jim, because I know you that well.
Thank you.
What was missing in the insights? There was like an underlying thread, which I thought was really key to call out. Would you mind sharing, Jim?
Oh, no, not at all. I love the top 10 insights. And the thing that struck me when Lizette was reading through it was that how one creates spaciousness, the key to creating that spaciousness and that sense of self-awareness is mindfulness. And I think I've helped a colleague of mine do a slide on her whole consulting practice or business consulting practice and training practice is all on mindfulness. which is really the way I say, the way it's we talk about it is it's applied neuroscience for everyday life. Because if you look at all the neuroscience research, et cetera, mindfulness is such a key piece. A colleague and friend, Otto Schwarmer from MIT, described mindfulness as a game changer. Everybody's doing it. The Department of Defense, Navy SEALs, businesses, it's everywhere. So I do think, but I think just to go back to you, Russ, the thing you were sharing at the very end there, where the balancing point between ill well-being and well-being, I think is the space you're holding, an intention you're holding of how do we hold that in this time and space of high anxiety and particularly political and also societal tension. I think that's exactly the dilemma. How does one hold the ill side with the well side? And I think the key of that is all really about how does one create mindfulness, and to your point, Russ, you were also saying it's hard to do that if you're in that kind of ill state. So what do you do? How do you get there? How do you create that well-being in ourselves or helping others in society? So
yeah, I was noting that in the collaborations we support, we've seen it's a little bit harder to get into collaborative, creative mindset when we're bringing in anxiety and threat and polarization, right? Our nervous systems are amped up. We're not at our most creative at those times.
Candy, I think I saw you start to unmute. Did you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, first of all, our group, we all focused on different topics, and it was really nice to hear some of people's points of views. And I even took some notes on what everyone was saying, but I was most interested in the one about kind of how to approach individual well-being and the well-being of society, or at least that's how I interpreted it. I've been personally trying to work on my individual well-being because I realized some of the difficulties I've had in groups or maybe society. I can't even begin to help with that or see it in a healthy light until I kind of work on myself and work on how I'm going to approach it. So I've been lately trying to work on mind, body, and soul. So doing practices that help me physically, practices that help my spirituality, practices that help me mentally. And I just appreciate space like this because one of the things I struggle with most is feeling guilty. I'm a mom of young ones, and I was sharing that in my family's particular culture, like working on yourself or self-care is not necessarily a good thing. It's viewed as selfish, or why would you take time to do that? Or why would you start that program? So it's been a struggle, but I'm really trying to take time with people like you all so that I can be affirmed that it's okay to work on the individual so I can better help more people.
Thank you for sharing, Candy.
I'll tag on to that as I did when we shared earlier, but just the metaphor that comes to mind is the putting your oxygen mask on first before you help the person next to you. It's like we need to be able to support ourselves before we help our others. And the question I chose was, how do we justify making space for well-being without feeling like we're neglecting other urgent needs? And in working with others in my community around trying to create well-being for all and building community resilience, it's like, because of the systemic nature of a lot of the problems we have in our communities, that it's like, this is foundational. It's like there's agreement that it's important to pay attention to this. This is like, if we can help build connection and help people get more present and connected to themselves, to be able to have social interactions and thrive, then the other issues will be easier to deal with, or this is like a foundational piece. So there's interest, while yes, there's a lot of unhoused and people hungry and people who are committing crimes or whatever. It's like the keys, one of the keys to those is to help people get back in themselves and be able to have better social interactions and be able to love themselves and accept themselves. So I think this is foundational.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Definitely. So important.
I'd love to build off that because I think that's what we discussed in our group. I love the oxygen mask metaphor. The one that we used was you can't fill someone else's cup unless your cup is full. And I think when we think about, the idea of transforming systems to make them more equitable, we are being extracted from that system and simultaneously going against the grain. And so there's like even more energy that is being exerted, us as actors trying to make this change. And so I think that just really shows the importance of self-care, because if we're burnt out and we can't even take care of ourselves, we have no hope of transforming the system. And thinking about the privilege that we have to be in a position to do that, I think there's like an urgency that comes from that. And so it's kind of like finding that balance of self-care, self-love. And I think those are the two.
Wonderful, Connor. Thank you.
No, thank you. I'll build on that too, Connor, because what I was going to say, or what stands out to me about this is I don't know, the word urgency, but also just responsibility, kind of like the sense of what the world needs from, what the world needs right now is for all of us to be able to bring the fullness of who we are as best we can. And I think that sense of working on individual well-being for the sake of ourselves, but also for the sake of the larger whole is a big piece of this, and ways that I find it hopeful that organizations and schools and prisons and governmental, organizations like that, so many places are thinking about this and starting to get on that train. I find that really hopeful. Slow, but hopeful.
Thank you, Simka.
I can come around to that. This is not exactly what we talked about in our group, although we did talk about this, but what I'm going to share is just something that's emerging right now for me, which is that way that have been trained in individualistic ways of thinking. And I'm just kind of like coming back to NVC and the list of universal needs. And one of our needs is the well-being of others. So it's like by meeting your needs and taking care of your well-being, like you're meeting my need for your well-being. And that sense that like of that connection and I think the thing I want to lift up from our group is this idea of systems as like the game that we're all playing, right? Like the thing, like what we inherited, what we were born into, the ways of interacting, and that when we take responsibility, when we exercise that kind of agency that we're talking about, when we're mindful of the kind of world that we would like to be in, and when we start to create that with each other, like on the levels that we can influence on these interpersonal levels, and just I've experienced this in like I move in culture, like I am choosing and moving in cultures that are different than what I was born in, and are different than other cultures that I hear about, and how people interact there. And just like, so I think it is possible for us to do a lot. We have a lot of agency to create the kind of spaces like this space, as an example, for well-being. And what's the possibilities for that then spiraling out? Like if we stand firm in our goal of well-being for ourselves and for everyone.
Thank you, Tracy. That reminded me of how, when we're doing collaborations and we look into like, oh, let's create this system that is going to embody these ways of being that we want that particular larger system to have. Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more.
I can share from our group. A lot of what was covered by other people, we talked about kind of like the individual versus systemic, and I agree with a lot of what has already been said in terms of focusing on individual and then kind of working towards the collective well-being. Another question that our group talked about was kind of centering the bodily wisdom and natural rhythms, and Neural in our group was talking about how the worker co-op that he's a part of, like coming to consensus around like what meeting times work for everyone. Like since no one needed to actually get up early or no one really was a morning person, like why would they schedule a morning meeting? And so like coming to a time that works for everyone. And then also I think Melissa was talking about how like the starting time of the workday is kind of arbitrary in terms of like why is it just the cultural norm that we start at 8:30 or 9 or whatever it is? Like why do we feel like so set to that? And yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your sharing. Thank you all for your generous sharing, for your presence. And I'm going to pass it over to Ross to get us into the next section.
Well, I think I'm just going to share a little bit about, some other opportunities. I want to encourage everyone to continue to share reflections, ideas, perspectives, questions in the chat, because we can share those out afterward. And we can also be in connection. So if there's somebody you've met, you want to ask them for their email, etc. We're not going to share your contact information with one another without permission. But we do realize we have a community here that kind of comes together and connects in webinars and things like that. And there may be other ways to connect. So if you're interested in that, let us know. Maybe we can create some structure. Oh, I'm way off. So I just want to note there are more resources, and there's community at Academy for System Change, which you can reach out to Martha about and learn more. Martha is the co-executive director of the Academy. They have lots of tools and resources related to systems understanding, systems thinking, systems change, etc. I know some of you know about Co-Creative's resources, but you're welcome to come to our website. We are cocreative.com/tools. I think we'll have over time more tools related to well-being practices, mindfulness practices in groups. I know my colleague Luzette, for example, and Melissa, I'm betting we're going to have more resources and tools related to that because we're doing more of that work. I'm just noting, and this will be in the follow-up, we'll share the slide deck. We have a couple of courses coming up if you want to kind of strengthen your skills around collaboration for systemic change, an intro course, a facilitation course, a couple of facilitation courses. If you happen to be in the Matsu Valley in Alaska, can join us there. So we love connecting. If there's anything you want to reach out about, if you have some ideas, if you'd like to kind of connect in an ongoing community in some way, please let one of us know. I'm sure you have an email address, but I'm going to drop one in the Zoom chat in case you don't. And I think, actually feeling like we have more time, but let's go to Martha because she's going to help us kind of close out mindfully from our session.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. Yeah, well, because through the process, we felt so much gratitude, like for anyone who showed up or joined in at any one point, even just today. I mean, it's been so rich in many, many ways. And so we want to offer a gratitude practice, and let's see where we go with that. But I don't know if this is your experience. Gratitude, it's a bit of a continuum. Sometimes you just have to remind yourself to be grateful for even the smallest thing to the biggest thing. And sometimes is not even that is accessible. And some other times you actually are flowing with it and you're overjoyed and connected to self, others, and nature. And it's exhilarating. So it's kind of a that continuum. And so I just wanted to invite gratitude in this space in whatever form it takes. And for doing that, why don't we just start from an activation place, which like we'll just make some movement and some heat. If you can unmute yourself, let's see what kind of sound Zoom allows us to experience. If we just go like this, it might, I don't know what comes out, but let's warm ourselves through this rubbing of the palms. And then whatever is coming up, you might notice in your body that something is shifting. Makes me smile. And we're going to bring that warmth to two places. We're going to put one hand over, above the belly button, and one below the belly button. And we're just going to take a moment to feel into that, which may mean focusing the breathing, anchoring on the feet. There might be different energies that the two different hands sense into. It's almost like having your ear kind of listening into those two different parts of the body that channel different energies. Just notice what might be there. And might we invite gratitude from those two places? As an example, for me, above the belly button is an anxious place. So gratitude from that place is different than gratitude from the lower belly, which is more like a sense of nourishment and enoughness. So, and I would like to invite to turn the palms up by staying connected to the same spot in the body, to the belly. But what does it look like if you open those palms? And it could be at the same time or one at a time or alternating, as if you were holding a something that you just retrieved from those two places in your body. Is there something that you can name that might feel like gratitude or something else? And is there anything from there that you feel like offering to yourself or to the group or both? If you feel that there is a something that you're holding in your palms and you want to offer to self, you're welcome to do that silently or sharing. And also think about the group. Is there anything that you'd like to share in the chat that you're bringing, whether anything that surfaced that you want to offer to this group as we prepare to close? And you can also unmute yourself and share a gift or a thought. So I'm inviting anyone who wants to share in chat or unmuting themselves.
The two gifts that came to me clearly were hope and love. It just filled the cups right away. Thank you.
What came to me is, it is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves back to the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Thank you for all the gifts that you're sharing in words and singing that are appearing in the chat, that you're holding to yourself, which is totally fine. Thank you for being here. I would like to invite anyone to really share anything else also from the team.
Kind of.
Oh.
Go
ahead.
Speaking to what Caroline had shared earlier about the, arbitrary kind of start time of the day, I was just thinking, wow. And where I am on the north coast of California, it was 9 a.m. when this started. So that's my, the start time of the workday, and that this is where I get to do that. Although this is where I get to be at the start. I'm just feeling really grateful for that. So thank you all to be with you. I'm really grateful for that.
Simca, were you going to share?
Yeah, I was gonna just offer gratitude for the places of real aliveness and movement, and noticed that my other hand, what if I used one word, it might say stuck, grounded, or still. So any of those, but both the places that feel solidly planted, and the places that are moving, and the gratitude for those polarities and the way they live in all of us.
Something came up for me on this session, which was I realized the frame I shared, which is with increasing polarization, anxiety, threat, etc., that it seemed like it was making collaboration more difficult. And I realized that was a choice, that framing. And another frame is, this is a time of open moments that create some openness to doing things differently, that's an opportunity to introduce practices, for example, that maybe groups in normal times, quote unquote normal times, wouldn't be as willing to try.
Right. Andy, did you want to share?
Did you say Candy?
Oh yeah, I thought I saw you come off mute again.
Yes, I will share. I was thinking my lower hand was kind of touching my appendectomy scar. I got that surgery when it was like a huge scar and near my cesarean scars. And I just felt grateful for health. My body's been through so much. And I kind of more appreciate like my belly and my scars more now that I'm a little bit older.
Shall we close?
We are at time. Yes.
Okay, let's unmute or stay unmuted. Share some greeting as we depart the space together.
Thank you to
Hasta luego.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be well. Yes.
Care.